Give your YouTube videos or short films that extra punch with some high-quality stock footage from Action VFX. Affiliate link below. Welcome back, listeners, to Graboidtober, where we'll be reviewing Tremors 4, The Legend Begins.
And the best thing about this movie is the cute little babies.
They could just eat you up.
The babies! Anyway.
Alright, even though this is another sequel to the Tremors series, it's a prequel to everything. So the fourth movie, so even though it has number 4, it's technically movie 0. Yeah, don't think about it too much.
Yeah, don't think too hard.
Alright, the whole premise is that in 1889, the town of Rejection, Nevada, that will later be known as Perfection, is terrorized by unknown creatures, forcing which makes its silver mine unworkable. The last remaining inhabitants of the boomtown ask the miner's owner, Hiram Gummer, the ancestor of Burt Gummer and also played by Michael Gross, to investigate it, only to discover something very ancient and very big may make the mine unworkable forever. And that's where we find ourselves. Yes, the movie takes place in 1889, so it has so everything is very Wild Wild West feeling to it.
Yes, everything. Everything. You have the classic, pretty much stereotypes.
Yeah. Let's see. You have the farmer, the innkeeper, you have the miner, and you have the shop owners. With, I guess, ultimately, Tremors 4 is kind of a mixed bag. It's a lot like Tremors 3. It's kind of more fun than being serious, but I kind of like it a little bit more than 3.
I have to agree, yeah.
I mean, it's the setting in the Old West kind of gives it a little bit, kind of refreshes it a little bit to try to see, like, how did people back then deal with these creatures, because we know that they did exist. Apparently they did exist before the events of the first movie.
Yes, and in the last movie we reviewed, it's revealed that their eggs lay dormant for 300 years. Which kind of throws into question this. But I think I can explain it when we get to that.
Okay. Alright. Michael Gross plays Hiram Gummer, Burt Gummer's ancestor, who's just the complete opposite of his descendant. He's an aristocrat. He pretty much hires everyone to do anything for him, including anything that involves a firearm. So he's never fired a gun.
He's never ridden a horse.
Yep, and he doesn't cook. He doesn't cook for himself. But so it's so it's this aristocrat who's obviously lived in the city, who comes to the small mining town, and that was the reason for that shot where he just like scurries around horse droppings, is that he's completely out of his element.
Yeah.
So how the movie starts out is that we open up on the silver mine, where we see our character and a questionable survivor named Juan Padilla. He's essentially a Miguel's character from the first movie, and he even mentions more than once about his ranch. While mining the town, several of his co-workers and even the foreman end up getting killed one by one, but he miraculously survives. How he does, we don't know.
Yeah, it's off screen.
It's off screen. I mean, I don't know if he stood very still. It kind of contradicts the first movie. Because
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I guess you really got to suspend your disbelief with this movie. Because there are some goofs and there are some anachronisms abounds in this, and for such a low budget. But I still can't get over the fact, Ian, you found out that this actually had more money than the second movie.
Yes. Can you state the budget for the second one while I pull this up again?
The second movie was budgeted at $4 million.
And this one had a budget of $5 million.
And there are moments in the movie that definitely is very cheap and very low budgety, but I don't know why this one would kind of look just a little more crappy, at least CGI wise, than the second movie. But probably because there was less CGI in the second movie. Let's just probably bring that in. But probably because this movie actually came out a year after the series on Sci-Fi ended, or ended as in, or when I say ended, I mean canceled and shot down with a rain of fire before even getting a chance to stand. And so it was on the Sci-Fi Channel, and the same studio or channel that runs all those wonderful Sharknado movies.
Yes, and all those films made by the Asylum.
Mm-hmm. And this is what I posted on my Facebook page last year when I was doing 31 days of Halloween movies. After a brief year on the Sci-Fi Channel, the Underground Worms return, but still with the production value of the Sci-Fi Channel. And it kind of shows in the effects. In some parts of the effects, but we'll get to that later. All right. Let's talk about. Well, how about setting? I mean, because that's something we haven't really talked about in either of the past movie reviews.
Yes, the setting. Aside from the time, like we said.
Aside from the time, I mean, just the overall look and feel of it, buildings, costumes, that kind of thing, all the background scenes.
Oh, I love it. I love this time period.
Mm-hmm. It's actually very nicely done. And even the firearms, aside from one, is actually historically accurate. And the costumes, they do kind of help you determine which character is which. You can pick out Hiram Gummer's costume if you held it up against the inhabitants of Rejection. Because it's just so very different from the ones that the country people wear, and I don't know why. I guess because there's a lot of movies that are in this time period, in modern time period, or the present, or far off into the future, that when you see something from the past, it just feels kind of refreshing.
Indeed, yeah, and I think that the past is somewhat romanticized a little bit.
Yeah.
Not saying that's a bad thing.
Yeah.
But
I mean, because let's be honest, if this was in actual 1889, I think the Changs and Tacopa and even Juan Padilla might be treated just a little bit more harshly by other people.
Almost definitely.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually writing a book studying this time period, so yeah, a lot of research on that sort of thing.
Yeah, and it's funny. I don't know what is actually the appeal of the Wild West, but when I was a kid, I mean, I just didn't like it. I didn't like the dirt. I just couldn't get into westerns. Blazing Saddles and Back to the Future Part 3 being the only exceptions. But recently I've actually come to kind of appreciate that genre, because even if I'm not a huge fan of westerns, I can kind of appreciate the scope and the visuals that this genre has.
Yeah, I think it has a fairly wide appeal, even if you do have to learn to enjoy it a bit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not for everybody.
I know, and yeah, and I've even 2 years ago I thought of writing a story of kind of having a Wild West feel to it, but kind of more like if any of you have seen Trigun or Cowboy Bebop, those are awesome animes, and I highly recommend watching them. Anyway, the Wild West also kind of offers some good visuals, like especially how one of the characters makes their entrance. Played by Billy Drago.
That name brings back bad memories.
And anyway, actually, I think that's actually a good segue to talk about characters.
Yeah, should we just start with the main one, then work our way down this list?
Sure. Do you want to start off?
Sure. First, we have Hiram Gummer, played by Michael Gross, and Yeah, John and I, before we started this, we made a reference to an older film, but it fits this the contrast fairly well. Hey, who's that?
Oh, that's must be a lord.
Yeah, must be. He doesn't have shit on him.
Yeah. Yeah. He is just he's he's the opposite of Bert in every way. I mean, even how he kind of treats people, especially how he first treated the little boy, Fu Yen, is just. I mean, that's. I mean, when we. I mean. Yeah, it's actually kind of a good. It's kind of a good way to show his transformation from being that. But when you first see him, just say you hear him promise this kid of the last piece of gingerbread cake, if he does you a favor, and then while he's gone, eats the damn thing. And doesn't
he was an ass?
I know, and does and even admits to it.
Yeah.
And what we
he even gets called out on it.
I know. Yeah. It comes back to bite him.
Oh yeah.
But it's again a kind of a good way to show this character's transformation. He actually starts to, become human.
He does, yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, it's his experiences with the creatures, and being around the townsfolk that gets him to change.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. The other character that kind of sticks out to my mind is actually the shop owners, the Changs.
Oh yeah.
And I think that's because some of them do is that there is kind of good there is nice funny moments that they have, but it's that how. But what I remember most about them is that when they would speak in Cantonese and then say the English translation. I mean, it's kind of a nice way to learn Cantonese. But let's see. The other thing that I like is how the wife just always constantly makes comparisons to China.
The only way you're going back to China is if you learn how to swim.
In China, nobody shoots in house. In China, no one has gun.
In China, no one has graboids.
We never had them in China, and but this is what's kind of weird. It's those constant remarks is that it makes you think like the wife was the one who didn't want to leave China. Only in the last third, it's like the complete opposite. She's the one who convinced him to leave China. I'm sitting here thinking, are you just messing with him? When you constantly say in China this, in China that. I mean, have some consistency.
Yeah, that I have to take a gripe with that.
Mm-hmm. But still, they made me laugh, and of course, then there's their son Fu.
Yeah, Fu Yen.
Fu Yen. he's the one who kind of well, that Hiram takes a liking to. Most I think because the little bit with the broken bicycle kind of gave Hiram a little bit of respect for him.
Indeed, yeah.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, Fu develops an attachment to Hiram and Hiram to him. Kind of like an uncle and a nephew, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's the same comparison I was gonna draw.
And let's see. And I mean, this kid has a big heart. Even when even though Hiram ate the last gingerbread, Fu still found it necessary to give him a weapon.
Yeah.
Granted, it's a slingshot, but still. Let's see. Ian, is there what's the other character you want to talk about?
Well, I have the entire cast pulled up here. We have Christine Lord.
Ah, yeah. Yeah, the innkeeper.
Mm-hmm. She's the one who calls Hiram out on everything.
Mm-hmm.
And in the end, we sort of see a spark between them.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's not much that I do get from her, except that she really does she really holds the last remaining inhabitants of rejection very close to her. She sees them as very close friends. And
oh yeah,
and when the news comes out that the graboids, and yeah, we know they're another name in the movie. We'll get to that later. She's just absolutely devastated that the town is gonna be overrun, is gonna be destroyed, that it's gonna be wiped off the map.
Yeah.
Let's see. All right. Next for me is Juan Padilla, the miner. Now
miner / rancher.
Rancher, yeah. And like we said, he takes over like Miguel's position. So just pretty much put the characters from the first movie, and these are their 1889 equivalents.
Pretty much, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a ranch owner and constant loser of hats.
Yeah.
That's
how many did he lose?
I think maybe 3 or 4. It's the running gag in that movie.
Here, have a hat. Here, he doesn't need any more. Have a hat.
I know, and yeah, it's so there is a scene between him and Hiram after after they investigate the mine, where we do learn a bit about Juan and how I think that this ranch is very important to him because now you don't hear this line because it's obscured by the worms, that I just want one of something. So this is a man who kind of grew up with nothing. His dad died when he was very young from a cave-in, and so his mom was the only one to take care of him, and he's also constantly moved around from boomtown to boomtown.
Yes, and his mom had to move from town to town to, do things for the miners, like wash clothes, cook.
Mm-hmm. And so this ranch is kind of is kind of the realization of a dream that his father had, as well as him finally growing roots, so that he can actually find a place to call home.
Yeah.
And let's see, last character that, well, there's not very much to him, but Takopa, played by August Schellenberg, or as I know him, or any 90s kids know him, Randolph from Free Willy. And yeah, he's the Native American, and kind of brings the more, I guess, the more spiritual part of these creatures. So as opposed to the scientific explanation that Rhonda from the first movie brought.
Yeah.
Though honestly, it's kind of great to see him again, because he's able to nail just that mysticism tone, especially when he talks about the graboids. My ancestors talked of spirit beasts that lived in that mountain. They come from underground, unseen to everyone above. And I'm like, damn. Who else could say it like that? Anyone? No, anyone? I can't think of anyone else.
If I had enough ambition to pull up Google, I could probably find someone.
Yeah. He's the one who's actually the most antagonist towards Hiram.
You want me to strangle him?
No. We need him. And so yeah, he does actually. And of course, as is tradition with us, we do kind of remember more of the snide remarks. And of course, he gets that, and another one. He gets a couple of them. I think my favorite one is that I voted to drop you off a cliff. And he just smiles at him.
Well, you kind of have to see where he's coming from, because it would primarily people like Hiram who drove him and his ancestors off of their land.
Yes, yeah. And
so it's understandable that he would have a bit of bias against rich white people.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I get it. And that's the other thing that I kind of like, is that it's not hammered in. I mean, it's a matter of knowing your history.
Yeah.
I mean, even Hiram makes Hiram even considers him Christine's man or servant, to which she responds, "He's not my man. He's my friend." Oh boy. The last thing that I said was still replaying in my mind, and so now that bled into my speaking.
It happened.
Mm-hmm. but but you know, every he eventually warms up to Hiram.
Yeah. And there's a couple other characters, but they don't say much.
Yeah. Let's see. Of course. The last one is Blackhand Kelly, who kind of takes on he's a gunman who is actually hired to kill the creatures so that the mine could reopen. And he also becomes kind of a mentor to Hiram in the ways of the gunman.
Yes.
Too bad he doesn't last very long.
No, he didn't last long at all.
I mean we can probably get into the writing later. But the last character is Old Fred.
He's not on screen long either before his untimely demise.
And pretty much it's kind of like the same way that Old Fred from the first movie got killed.
Yeah.
All right. I think with writing, it kind of got. Now, even though Tremors 4 is a prequel, it's just full. It's full of in jokes and Easter eggs that you gotta have knowledge of the first 3 movies before you watch it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the drawback of this movie. Is that if someone decides to watch the 4th one first by reading that it's a prequel, and then they see what happens in the movie, they're not going to get the joke.
Yeah. I mean, they even referenced a line from Burt Gummer. I feel I was not made privy to valuable information.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to, I feel I was denied vital, need-to-know information.
Mm-hmm. And I kind of think that, well, before I actually go on to what I was just about to talk about, I'll talk. Apparently, according to I'll talk about the other in joke. Apparently, the idea of a character running up a telephone pole, and this is on the IMDb page, is an idea that has been written in and out of different versions of the past movies for a long time, and so this is the movie where they were finally able to put that in. And so it's not kind of an in-joke, or it's a little bit more of an Easter egg.
Yeah.
That, again, if you haven't watched the first 3 movies and actually watch them with the commentary on, you're not gonna know that. Now, oh crap! What was that thing I was going to talk about? Oh yeah, the writing.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
I was going to talk about
who wrote this. Story by Brent Maddock, director from the last one.
Mm-hmm.
It was also written by the director for this one, Stephen Sess Wilson, and Nancy Roberts.
Okay. Now while the build-up is pretty good, especially even in the intro, it's just within the second and third act, especially with Black Hen Kelly's character, is that I think that I feel like maybe he shouldn't have been killed off, because him staying in rejection is actually kind of easy to explain. I mean, I think he was promised to be paid in silver, and he's a hired gunman, and also I think he kind of likes he would also like the challenge of shooting the graboids, but ultimately I think he would just stay so that he could get paid.
Yeah.
So he didn't need to be killed off. I mean, but you know, you didn't have to write him to stay for a noble cause, because he's not an inhabitant of rejection. He doesn't have the connection with the people. He's just he's a hired gun. It's simple as that.
Yeah.
But you know, what's done is done. I mean, I kind of would have liked to see his reactions to the guns that Hiram brings back.
Oh my goodness, yes. Let's see. What did he bring back?
Let's see. A Winchester repeater rifle, a stagecoach shotgun, let's see. That small handgun, that's not a Derringer. Actually, the little gun that he had that he had in the middle of the movie, can be classified as a Derringer. And a punt gun.
Oh yeah. And I have the dimensions on it.
Mm-hmm.
Weighing 94 pounds, 43 kilograms. For people in other parts of the world other than the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
And it measured 8 feet 4 inches long, 2.54 meters. The gun had a 2-inch, 1.5 centimeter bore, which classifies it as an A gauge. Mm-hmm. According to Stampede Entertainment, the entire trigger assembly of the punt gun dropped down to allow the loading of the internal shotgun with triple load 12 gauge black powder blanks.
Mm-hmm. And the thing about it is a giant cannon that looks like a shotgun. And the thing is that is historically accurate. That a gun like that did exist, and it was used to shoot down a flock of ducks when they were resting on the lake. And it would rest on the back of the boat, or the punt, where it would where the hunter would use it. So I mean, it's kind of funny to see in real life.
Yeah, in this day and age, it feels like overkill.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is a gummer we're talking about.
Yes. Although that just makes his final scene so much better.
Oh. Yeah. Now, so with the exception of the one gun, the one that he gives to Lu Wan, Mrs. Chang, all those guns were historically accurate. And I know this because for my Western story, I had to do research on what were the most popular guns in the Wild West. And so yeah, the repeater rifle, that was that was a very popular shotgun to use. Even the way it was loaded was very accurate. But all right, I'm talking too much again. I know. Ian, is there anything else that you'd like to talk about, historical accuracy, or do you just want to move on to the next topic?
Overall, I think it's fairly historically accurate based on what we know, but yeah, let's move on.
Okay. Let's see. What do you think we should move on to?
Did we do music?
No.
All right. Let's do music then.
Okay. You want to lead off?
Yeah. The music is it's noticeably Western.
Mm-hmm.
Like Old West music.
Yeah.
It's from the music you don't really feel that it's Tremors. Like in the main theme.
Yeah. It doesn't. Have you ever seen The Magnificent Seven?
Which one?
The original.
Oh, I love it. I have it recorded.
Yeah. The music almost feels a little like that.
It does, yeah.
And funny thing is, since we brought up Monty Python, and the Holy Grail, it turns out that the first four notes, and again, citing IMDb, the main theme uses the first four notes as the theme from Monty Python and the Holy Grail, only about 3 notes higher. So now I gotta rewatch that movie and see if I actually hear it.
So do I.
Mm-hmm.
The music was done by Jay Ferguson.
Mm-hmm. And I had to look this up, and he's the same guy that made the iconic theme for the Terminator. He scored the 80s classic. So, and yeah, I guess the little gripe I have with the theme is that it's noticeably not real. Like none of the instruments that were used sounded like they came from real instruments.
Yeah, I have to agree.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
but it surprisingly is very catchy. I mean, I can still get into it.
Is there anything on IMDb about the music? Because there's nothing on Wikipedia.
No, nothing on that.
Yes, we only use the finest sources of information for our channel.
Yes. But the orchestra is only used during the right moments. Like, of course, the opening credits, when Hiram returns, which I probably should have mentioned in the writing, is that it's not very ambiguous. It's kind of obvious he's gonna go back to rejection.
Yeah.
But some of the other music, like when the townspeople are just doing their daily routine, there's this little beat melody, I guess, that is in the background. And honestly, Ian, how did that go?
Bum 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 bum.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's nice. I mean, it's minimal, and it still feels like it's in like it's still in the the same genre. It doesn't feel out of place in this movie, or in the setting that we're in.
No, it seems to fit fairly well.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. I got nothing. I got nothing else for this. How about you?
Nope.
All right. All right. All right. Let's talk about the creature.
Oh, the baby.
Oh, that's a good little baby. Yes. I remember when there was actually rumors of a fourth movie coming out, that there would actually be a fourth stage, like a fourth version of the creature, and this time it would actually have eyes. But boy, am I glad that turned out way different.
How would they do eyes?
I have no idea. I really don't. Maybe like a dinosaur?
I think they did dinosaurs twice with the Shriekers and the Ass Blasters.
All right.
But yeah, I think like theropods would be the best bet.
Okay. But yeah, there's no Shriekers or Ass Blasters. It's just the original graboids. Only they're not called graboids in this period. They're actually called dirt dragons. Pyeongchang is the one who named them. Again, tradition is tradition. Let's see. I don't know why, but I kind of like dirt dragons more than graboids.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that's just because of the 5 years, or technically 8 years of being a fan of How to Train Your Dragon.
Yeah. Maybe.
Maybe.
Although you and I can't avoid this any longer. This is the fourth movie we've talked about, the Tremors series, and we have yet to draw a comparison to Whispering Death.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I was. Yeah, it is. Yeah, I do think that the series did draw influence from this series, especially when it comes to the Whispering Death. Oh wait, I didn't we actually make one comparison in one of our previous Tremors reviews? With mulch and bucket standing on barrels.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
All right.
But that was last week, and it's late.
Yeah. Yeah, it is late. Now, even though we don't get a new creature, we do see kind of like another version of the graboid. We see its larval stage. And honestly, we only see it briefly, but it is pretty memorable.
Yeah.
So they're kind of like, you ever see fossils of trilobites?
I have several.
You have some. Yeah, they kind of almost look like that.
They do, yeah.
They look. These little baby graboids, they don't seem to have the three tongues yet. That seems to once they get older into their adolescence, that's when they start gaining them. But because they're so small, they can't. The only way they actually attack, they can actually attack and eat their prey is they fling themselves out of the dirt. And
yeah.
And honestly, that
boy, is it shocking!
It is shocking. It is shocking. I mean, it does make for a nice jump scare. I mean, at first you're expecting this future Chow to just be dragged down to the ground. Only on screen right, he's suddenly like flung back like he just got hit by a bullet.
And at first it looks like he got hit by a rock.
Mm-hmm. Or some demonic trout. Had to bring that up.
It wouldn't be Omerkata Pictures if we didn't review or reference other films.
Yeah, well, actually, this came from the movie. This came from that movie. Yeah, Hiram's the one that
oh, that's right. Yeah, he did.
Made that comparison. Let's see. Let's see. And they seem to, and they also have digging abilities.
Yes, they vibrate themselves.
Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of how they burrow and get back into the dirt. And that's pretty much all that we see of them, because the next at least the baby dirt dragons. Next time we see them, it's back to the usual song and dance. We see them in all their full grown glory.
They grow quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wait. No, because a month passed before they see them again. That's right.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna have to edit that out.
Let's see, we have Dirt Dragons, music. Want to go to cinematography?
Sure.
Alright. Cinematography is... It's okay.
Okay in some parts, yeah.
Yeah. Kind of a mixed bag.
Yeah. It is, I mean, it is fairly standard. It's not all that impressive. Granted, seeing the wide shots of the mountainous terrain is very appealing.
Yeah, I did enjoy that.
Mm-hmm. And we do get, in the final battle in rejection, when they're trying to bait the dirt dragons to come up so that Hiram can shoot them with the cannon. It's actually a good way to actually see just how big they, again, to see how big they are in comparison to the average human.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of all I have to say about the cinematography. It's just average.
Yeah, not overly remarkable.
An average cinematography for an average movie. Now, how about the effects? Because The Legend Begins seems to kind of go back to the old practical effects and using very little CGI again, and in comparison to the third one.
Yeah.
Let's see. Apparently, this is actually one of my favorite bonus features on the DVD of how they constructed the animatronics. The animatronic that was used during the scene when Blackhand Kelly gets eaten actually had 3 different compartments, with doors that would open up so the actor could slide down.
Ah.
So yeah, they still use miniatures and animatronics, and I don't think they use hand puppets for the snakes again. But that's kind of okay, and very little CGI. Some of the CGI is actually pretty obvious, though.
Yeah.
As like they actually use CGI tentacles when the full-grown graboid bursts through the wall at the floor in the muling station. So it's kind of a little jarring to me.
Yeah. Let's pull up the budget here. The first Tremors film actually had a budget of $11 million.
Okay. Second one had $4 million. Let's see. This one had $5 million. How much did the third one have?
Give me 2 seconds. $6 million.
$6 million.
Yep.
Wow. Huh. So the lowest budgeted movie in the series actually had more quality than its sequels.
Yeah.
I think it might have something to do more with the studio the studio in charge of the effects than the actual budget. Well, maybe the budget's a factor, but then I guess there's also the people behind it.
Yeah.
Of course, Graboid aside, there are also some digital effects that are just obvious and kind of cringeworthy. Like instead of using the old time effect of the airbag under the ground for when the graboid is tunneling underground, it looks like they went into Photoshop and added a bulge effect.
Yeah,
Yeah. So they had $6 million the last movie had. They did that, and they did that old effect. This one has $5 million, and they said, you know what? Let's just save all the money on airbags. Are airbags really that expensive?
I mean, look.
He's actually looking. This is not a comedy bit.
What else can we talk while I'm pulling this up?
Let's see. Covered the effects, writing. Honestly, I don't know. I'm not thinking of anything. I guess, favorite scenes or moments.
I did enjoy the camping scene. That's really it for me.
The first camping scene?
Yeah, where we learn more about Juan.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess I like the sequence of Hiram's return, because it was kind of a nice. It was the way, even though it was kind of obvious that he was going to return. The way it's shot and the music is just fit very well. It was a nice build up before actually before hitting the high notes of him coming up through over the horizon.
Holy crap!
What?
Cost of an airbag. $1,000 to $6,000.
Wow. Okay, well, errors have been made.
Yeah. I'm sure they could have found something else to use as an airbag.
There's only 2 shots where the we see a graboid travel underground, and they couldn't shell out like $12,000,
or even just 6.
Yeah,
you only need 1 airbag.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. I guess I got nothing left. Ian, what about you?
Yeah, no. Nope.
No? Alright. I guess...
Oh, wait. Another... One of the quotes I did enjoy. You want to do favorite quotes quick?
Sure, yeah.
You missed! With a cannon!
More Tacopa. Yeah. That was a good one. I guess, let's see. I guess another quote actually comes from Christine Lord. This is the Wild West, Mr. Gummer. Haven't you read those dime store novels? I guess that kind of suggests that even during the Wild West was romanticized.
Understandably, it's a new territory, like lots of freedom that people would pursue out there, a new life, so.
Yeah. Let's see, and of course, any remark that Tacopa makes is just memorable.
He's handsome, isn't he? Barry, it's me.
A cigar store Indian? Well, it could be me.
I love him.
Oh,
he's awesome.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Even when the mine reopens and Hiram pretty much gives all the inhabitants what they've wanted. Tacopa still wants the statue.
A new statue.
One that looks like me. And let's see. Honestly, it's actually a pretty good serviceable sequel, and I honestly think it's a little bit better than 3.
I have to agree.
I know. Even the outtakes and the making of Tremors 4 is actually makes the DVD and Blu-ray worth buying. So I'd have to give Tremors 4: The Legend Begins an 8 out of 10.
So do I. I mean, it's a solid film.
Mm-hmm.
Although it kind of does irk me a little bit, because here's what I alluded to at the beginning of this review. We know that graboids can lay dormant in their eggs for around 300 years.
Yes.
We don't know the overall lifespan of an ash blaster.
Right.
And this takes place, crap, I have to do mental math.
About 100 years before the first movie.
Yeah, 98 years before the first movie. So that brings into question, where did they come from? Did they lay dormant for 200 years? Instead of 3, or?
I don't know.
Just a question I have.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, the writing is all right. To add to my critique, the writing is a little bit self-referential, so it does require prior knowledge to the movie in order to actually fully appreciate the Easter eggs and jokes. But all in all, on its own, it's still pretty decent and well made. I mean, if you don't take it too seriously.
Yeah.
All right. I think that's the end.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us for this installment of Graboidtober. Do tune in next time, where we will be reviewing the 5th movie, dubbed Bloodlines.